Welcome everyone. Today we'll have a special guide for Daughter Underlord. As we know, the knights and dragons are everywhere in the patch, after the patch, and we'll be looking at this particular build. We're looking into other builds as well, because this build can be contested at times as more players play the knights. So this is definitely one of the best current meta build because it is very solid. We have tested it and it was one of the builds that took us to the Lord of Whitespire, back to it. We're getting the second account to Lord using this build and other builds as well. The core concept is that we're taking advantage of there's no extra damage before round 10 and 3 rolls of each round after we lose. The knights can suffer quite a lot during the early games previously, similar for mages, because most of our units are not found readily. They're mostly tier 2 and tier 4, we can't find them to 2-star before round 10 usually. And with this new change, it really favors the mages and the knights. Now, what we're going to do is, we're also looking into the 3 roll strategy with the knights to benefit us in finding 3 stars, and being a more effective defensive alliance, the higher the base HP we are, the more effective HP it is, because the 50% damage reduction works wonderfully with a 3k knight compared to a 1.6k knight HP. Let's start with the early game. Early game now goes from round 1 to 15 with the new adjustment of how damage is dealt. The main goal for the early game is to save up. We can use a losing streak, we can use a winning streak. Ideally, it is easier to guarantee a losing streak compared to a winning streak in the new patch, because you might be winning, all of a sudden someone gets a free roll, they find the crucial 2-star, it's a 2-star Beastmaster, 2-star Sniper, all of a sudden they get a random power spike, and it is harder to keep winning. We should stay on level 4 or 5 to maximize our saving if we're planning to go to a losing streak. And this is before round 10, notice that. We should be leveling up after round 10 because the damage dealt after round 10 is massive. And of course, make use of the free rolls. The alliance we're looking for the early game are cheap and effective early game alliances which helps us save up. 3 assassins, hunters, warriors, druids, heartless, savages, trolls and knights. The earlier ones is a transitional purpose as we pick up on knights on the bench, while the later ones allows us to go into the knights directly. So it can be hard to find knights to 2-star, and we're adopting with the earlier alliance which can be stronger. Keep in mind, we don't want to fuse units that's 2 tier or 3 tier because they'll sell for less. We can still fuse units like Bounty Hunter, Tiny, Bloodseeker, or other units like Enchantress can still work because they'll sell for the full price. Because we have went over with the Savage and Hunter builds, we won't be explaining those builds with the cheap effective Savages and Hunters. We'll focus on what happens when we start fully with Knights. So we're going to look into early Knight start. In terms of order of preference, we're looking for key units. Number 1 is Batrider in early rounds, and then followed by Chaos Knight and Luna, followed by Witch Doctor or any other valuable early game units like 2-star Tiny, Druids, etc. Then followed by Shadow Shaman. Yes, the Batrider is top priority in the first 2 rounds because likely you won't find Chaos Knight or Luna, but other times Batrider can be effectively strong with a 2-star or multiple Batriders on the field. That gives us a little early game edge. After round 10 or even after round 5, Batrider won't be that effective, so we definitely want to focus on Chaos Knight and Luna after. So after round 4, we want to use Batriders with as the main source of damage, Witch Doctor for the control and the stun. And of course, the Blink Dagger on Witch Doctor is not bad. Other type of mana gain on Witch Doctor is very nice. Even after the nerf, Witch Doctor is still very relevant. Having 2+ knights and at least one of the 2-star knight is essential for the early game knight start because only 1-star knights we won't do enough damage. A 2-star knight can do enough damage while we're defensive. A few items to highlight with the new changes. The Forefront Grace is a S tier item for knights, hunters and warriors. Most of the damage is physical here, and -5 armor really helps because it translates into 22% physical damage amplification. And that's considerable damage, especially this goes through armor, so it's not reduced by armor. Because we're reducing the armor. Previously with the Savage we used to get plus 20% or 10% attack damage, which is reduced by armor. So the Heartless is more favored for us. Arcane Boots is quite nice on Batrider, which only has 20 max mana. This means he will almost instantly activate mana boots, and that enables the entire team to have a quicker cast. could be a quicker Witch Doctor cast, could be a quicker Bat Rider cast if he had friends on the team. So 2 Bat Rider can really wreak havoc of the enemy with these mana boots. We call it Arcane Boots here, it's very strong. Another another tier 2 item to look out for is Helm of Undying. This is a S- tier item for me because for any build it is useful. It scales upwards, it allows unit to keep doing damage, and once we find a 3-star crucial unit, it can be a great bait for enemies, it can enable you to cast spells or enable you to do more damage. And this item scales into the late game so nicely because if a unit survives for 4 seconds longer, you delay the engagement, you can be dying in your round a little slower. This might be the difference maker with your positioning, or you can be killing extra few unit to reduce the loss of HP. So this is a very good item. The advantage of this build is that we're saving great economy using the losing streak, and we are delaying the power spikes around round 15 because that's when our build really finds the 2-star knights, and we consolidate our foundation, and we probably stay on 60, 50 or even 40% HP. Once we find enough 2-star knights, we go for 3-star knights. Disadvantage here is not finding enough knights. It can be heavily contested if 3+ players are playing this build, and that's when we start to consider other builds. I'll recommend warriors, hunters, mages, scrappies and warlock. You don't need to play one of them by one, but you can mix them together. Say hunters and warlocks, hunters and warriors, mages and scrappies, or scrappy and warlocks. You can even go warriors and warlocks, but you don't want to mix the two that's defensive like warriors and scrappies. Let's look into the early game variations. We have quite a few to help us consider the choices and to save up enough economy to go further into the mid game. In this first variation, we'll look at only having 4 units on the board. We won't be looking at a lot of the alliance items because there's only a few, so we'll look mainly on the team compositions and the unit choices and also the positioning. Here we have the Bat Riders with the Chaos Knight. This is a basic stuff for round 4. This is okay, this gives us a small chance of winning with the Bat Riders as the source of damage. Chaos Knight can take the chainmail on any defensive items. Shadow Shaman just here. We replace him with Witch Doctor if we can, but he's just here. We ideally don't need Shadow Shaman because this is going to be a Dragons and Knight, not a Trolls and Knight. And Shadow Shaman is not effective at 2-star, even at 3-star, he's a little underwhelming, especially with the change of the Shamans. Second variation is just with starting with 4 knights. This can be around 4, round 5 start. We can even keep those 4 knights to go further. So this is when we're running a losing streak, which is having 4 knights. We just position them as casually as this. We're not positioning to the center because usually we're not very strong. This one focuses on Abaddon as the tank, while the entire team can focus on one unit that is in the corner. So we aim to kill a few units. As we go further and level up in the game, we can add 5 units. Ideally, Witch Doctor is very nice. It has a stun, it is a troll that enhances the whole team, and it can be given Blink Dagger, Mana Gain items, and it can build into Warlocks later as well. This is when you have multiple pairs, or if for the lucky fews, you have multiples of them to 2-star. Here the focus is on the damage and the stun potential with Chaos Knight and Witch Doctor. Of course, the Bat Rider can be exchanged if it's just a 1-star Bat Rider, and the focus is to save up. We use cheap, effective units. We only keep the core knights. We save up until round 15 and go further. For this variation, we're now level 6. This is usually happening after round 9, and during this stage, we will be looking at level 6 until round 15 most likely, unless we get super lucky with rows of units, we get enough economy to go to level 7 a little earlier. Usually we do want the 4 knights, and at least one of the knights should be 2-star. Witch Doctor is in the middle, he can be on the side. The key here is how many 2-star Bat Riders do we have, and those will be the damage dealer or the tank. We use the Bat Riders as a tank here. So we can see that 1-star Bat Rider is smaller than or weaker than Chaos Knight, weaker than Abaddon, which is equal to Oni Knight. Because those two does have 10 armor, Chaos Knight only have 5 armor. In this stage of the game, AoE damage from Abaddon and Oni Knight actually does a little more for us. And as one of the last variation for the early game, We have 6 units on the board, 4 of them or 5 of them are knights, and with the Witch Doctor. The highlight here is a 2-star Luna. I feel that a 1-star Luna without any damage item is not very strong, but a 2-star Luna can be the core of any of the knight build before round 20. Looking into the mid game, it is round 16 to round 25. We want to level up and spending correctly with the knight build. So other than the Dragon Knight, Necrophos and Disruptor, most of the units we're looking for are tier 3 units. So because of that, are tier 3 and below units. Because of that, we want to be rolling on level 7 if we want to find faster power spikes with multiple pairs of Chaos Knight, Abaddon and Oni Knight. But we still want to roll at level 8 for the highest rates of those purple units, because those with the game changers that disables or does most damage. The usual timings is round 17, level 7, round 21, level 8, then we stay on level 8 to be rolling. We can consider going up a level at level 9, round 26 or 31. We'll be prioritized on finding all the units to 2-star first, then aiming for Chaos Knight and Luna to 3-star first. If HP is too low, we'll consider leveling up for additional alliance, maybe Heartless, maybe the Trolls, maybe the Warlocks. Or we can add another 2-star unit from the bench. So this is the last step, desperation. But if we're close to 3 stars, we can go all in and rolling as well. The key units in the mid game are Dragon Knights, Necrophos and Disruptor to 2-star. Necrophos can be effective at 1-star for the Heartless and the Warlock and the healing, but ideally all 3 should be 2-star. It is hard to conform all 3, so we can be flexible. And yes, we can swap the Witch Doctor out by having the Necrophos and Disruptor, at least one of them at 2-star. Ideally, Disruptor 2-star for the front line, Necrophos can be 2-star later. We're likely to have 6 or 4 knights at this stage. Having additional Heartless and Warlock is great for us. We want to consider the Dragon Knight with Viper over the pack, because having the dragons, it's great, but pack is not very strong unless we have mages and mana gain for her. Viper on the other side is quite good of a tank and it's quite effective. But there is one chance when we use the pack is when we use the pack as a bait on the side. Give her a little defensive item and she can use phase shift and start baiting enemies away from the entire team of the knights. That's the chance I use pack over Viper. Let's look at the items we can find at this stage. We'll be looking for most of the 3-tier units or 3-tier items. The first one, of course, is the Desperation of the Braces. This is like an instant refresher, and it's a so highly rated item. It's S tier plus for most builds. We can place it on the AoE casters for damage like Oni Knight and Abaddon. We can place it on Disruptor, maybe even Tide Hunter later when we find him as 2-star. So it's either damage or AoE stuns or instant cast. This item will guarantee a unit at least get 1 cast off, often get 2 cast off if they're 2-star. We have the Maelstrom after. It is a great item for damage for the ranged units, and having 2 chop buff with enough attack speed, this item is acceptable, but often we want more attack speed gain than just a flat chance of proccing with the lightnings, because we do not do magical damage. Lightnings are magical, and we do most physical damage. Mechanism is actually a really good item for the knights, because the AoE healing turns our knight's tankiness into more effective HP. 200 HP will allow the enemy to go through 400 to 500 HP because we have the Knight Alliance, and also we have more healings to come. As more healings are coming with more cooldown, the mechanism really adds to the survivability. I tend to give this item to the 1-star unit or a unit that is in the center, like the Necrophos. As for Mask of Madness and Secret Relic, or items that adds damage or attack speed, it is great for the Luna, because she does not have active, she does have a passive. We can give the relic to the Dragon Knight, but not the Mask of Madness, because Dragon Knight really wants to cast, and it's a really good casting of AoE and reduction of attack damage. As for the Luna, she will be the crucial damage dealer until round 20 and plus. That's when she falls off at 2-star, but once she's 3-star, a Mask of Madness Luna at 3-star, it's insanely strong. Secret Relic and the Datalist is also a great item for Luna, also the Hyperstone. Octane Essence is great on Necro and Witch Doctor, and even Disruptor at 2-star, because those units can give a great disable, heal the team with the Warlocks, and also do multiple things with cooldown. This item was nerfed to tier 3, but it still can be very effective. And lastly, the Vanguard, of course. We want knights to survive for longer, because each of the knights dies, we have less chance of activating the Knight Alliance. So usually you see that knights don't die at all, or knights die quickly together. If that's the case, we give a crucial unit in the front line, maybe Abaddon, Chaos Knight, or Oni Knight, the Vanguard, and they survive a little longer. Note here is that we should aim for 50 or 40 gold after round 15, and we should be rolling for the 2 stars at level 7, but if most units are already 2 star, then we'll use the gold that's over 50 gold to go to level 8 before rolling for the 3 stars. This gives the highest chance of finding the crucial purple units to 2 star, the Dragon Knight, Necro, and Disruptor. Let's look at the mid-game variations for the alliance and positioning and item and units choices. In the first variation, we have 6 knights with humans, dragons, and demons. Notice that we can have the 2 heartless with 4 from grace, which is one of the best items for the knights. The positioning allows Oni Knight to be the first tank, which he will be surrounded by enemies, he's likely to have the lowest HP, he's going to heal himself. If Oni Knight is in a different position, when he takes damage, it's likely he heal a weaker ally, which is out of the center of the enemy, so we want Oni Knight to be in the middle. So he heals himself, he guarantees he gets the most damage out of his heal. So he's a healer and a damage burst. Other positioning is quite standard. Viper can be here, Viper can be here. Viper is used to bait enemies away, or Viper can be used to defensively protect the backline against assassins. We can also pull the entire team to the backline, which we'll see after. On the next variation, we can see that we added the Heartless with Necrophos, and here we still have the 6 knights. The 6 knights allows us to be tanky, and the difference maker for having 6 or 4 knights is how many 2-star knights. The Luna and the Chaos Knight has to be 2-star for me to have 6 knights in this situation. Other than that, I can replace the Chaos Knight with the Witch Doctor or maybe Disruptor. Luna can be replaced with something else, because this gives us the Warlocks, this gives us the Trolls as well. And as we said earlier, this is what happens when we actually don't have the Chaos Knight, don't have the Luna. So here we have the Trolls and the Witch and the Warlocks. We have all the alliance by the looks of it. So it is a great alliance combination in the mid game by having enough of the 2-star knights. So Abaddon, Oni Knight, or even Dragon Knight, we want those to be 2-star. And the backline really supports them with healing, additional healing, slow the enemy, and also more healing with Warlocks. So this is a very nice lineup in the mid game. Going to the late game, usually it is round 25 plus when player starts to die, and this is the stage we will want to start our aggression. We will be considered going to level 8 and 9 at round 26, and we also have 2 choices. The first choice is we can roll for the 3-star knights and other units, but if our HP is lower, we should consider the second choice. So if HP is higher than 40% and we're close to at least 1 or 2 3-stars, it's better to be rolling for them, because they will be the game changer. As we level up, there's less chance and less gold to roll for them. On the second choice, we'll consider leveling up for additional alliance or AoE stuns and disables. We'll use HP as indicator for spending and leveling. HP is 40%, we can roll to 40 or 30 gold. 30%, 30, 20 gold. And similarly for 20%, we can go to 20 or 10 gold. But if we have ages here, we can stay on 10% and stay this greedy, because we still have 1 left in us. With 10%, you want to go in to 10 gold or even 0 gold, because it's likely to die in the later rounds after 25, even with 1 or 2 units surviving on the board. In the late game, it's very important to be scouting and repositioning against different counters. So we want to be vigilant. We want to be protective of